sure most of you would have already had the orientation, attended the orientation session yesterday in presence of the IBC Media CEO, Mr. Abhishek Pitti, and the IBC Media Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Praveen Thakur. And we are again today going to talk, basically take this to next step, where we will be speaking and discussing and having conversations on how to be a Web3 developer. And we have a super interesting panel for the same. And we'll start with our COO, Mr. Praveen Thakur, and then we'll move on to our next very exciting speaker from our partner company, Nitro Network. We will have Mr. Avinash Pitti speak to us about how you can basically make a mark in the Web3 industry. And then obviously we'll have a blockchain developer and expert, Mr. Deepak Chaudhary, speak to us on the same subject. So before we begin, I would like to thank you all once again. And I would just like to remind you that if you have not yet joined the IBC Media Discord server, then make sure that you do, because you might miss out on some exciting and super important sessions that may come up in the coming days. So to make sure that you don't do that, you need to be on Discord. You need to get your friends on Discord if you are planning on working as a team, or if you also want them to learn alongside you with you, to make sure that you both, you and your friends and everybody in your network gets the most out of this free education ecosystem that has been driven by IBC Media. So without any further ado, let's bring our first speaker, Mr. Praveen Thakur, who will be starting this conversation on how to be a Web3 developer. Praveen, sir, once again, it's great to have you here. And I hope everything is going great. Sir, can we take the conversation ahead now?
Thank you, Deepak. While Deepak brings up the screen, the presentation, let me give you a brief recap of what we have done so far from yesterday. So yesterday we had a very interesting discussion session in which we gave you a perspective of why is it important to be in this space, Web3 space. Why is this the work that we are doing at IBC Media? Why is this important? What is the problem that this industry is facing with respect to the talent availability, the skilled resources, and how is IBC Media trying to fill this gap between the demand side and the supply side? Abhishek also spent some time going over the opportunities that are going to become available to you once you become skilled, once you acquired the skills which are required in this space, which this space needs very, very badly. And we are not talking about something which is good to have. We're talking about something which is essential for this space to grow. And that is where, all of you, in fact, I agree with Deepak that, it is very important for you to be a part of these sessions. And not only today, I think beyond this also, we will be getting too deep into the tech stack. And we would strongly advise you to be a part of those. Today, we have got, 3 speakers, including myself. I'll be starting with, the foundation that you really need to understand when we talk about Web3. Then, our next speaker is, like Deepak said, Avinash, Mr. Avinash Pitti. He is the Chief Technology Officer for our partner company, Nitro Network. He will go into much more details and deep inside what is, happening in this technology. Now, we do appreciate that some of you may have, little less understanding of even Web 2. So when we talk about this space, we will try to give you, the basic knowledge and awareness of what happens in Web 2, and then we'll take you to the Web 3 so that you appreciate the differences which are coming, in this technology. And then finally, we have got, a fantastic person who is working hands-on in this space right now, Deepak Chaudhary, and he will be taking you through some very, very interesting blockchain protocols and how do they work, what is their environment like, etc. So I think this is going to be one of the most, I would say, enlightening session for you. Please feel free to put your comments, put your questions if you have in between, so that we will be able to address them and you get the maximum benefit out of this session. With all these introduction, why don't we go to the next slide, Deepak? So it is very important. It is very important for you to understand what is, a decentralized application. Now, let me give you some perspective. If you currently right now, if you look at the infrastructure, the applications around you, most of the activities that we do online, be it Facebook, which is called Meta now, be it Amazon, be it your bank's portals, right? So I think the importance of the digital world really has increased in a drastic way. And what we are witnessing today, we call it Web 2. Now, there was a version of web where we all started around 20 years back or so, which was called Web 1. So what exactly is the difference? And I would explain to you the difference. So Web 1 is, Web 1 was the internet, which was unidirectional. When I say unidirectional, what really it means that the information was being shared with the consumers, with the users, and users were not able to contribute to the content of the internet. So for example, if you are being able to, read through news or, certain things which are static information, some pictures, all those things. So the information was, being given to you as the end user. Now, these, of course, these informations pieces were stored in some databases, some servers, all those things are there in the backend. But from the business perspective, what you are seeing here, what you were seeing here there in Web 1 was the information coming to you and you consuming those information, like your, Wikipedia kind of stuff, right? Now, Wikipedia also, of course, has gone to the next level where you can go and contribute. In fact, Wikipedia comes in Web 2, where people started contributing to the content. And that's where your Facebook emerged, your Amazon emerged, there are a lot many blog sites emerged, all these places, where you are, contributing to the content. So you become the content creator as well. Now, this really was a massive transformation or, progression from the first stage of internet to the second stage where the whole community got engaged into the whole process. Now, one of the problems that happened in this, and this is a very important problem that I'm going to be talking about, that the content that you are creating in this whole process in Web 2, you are not being adequately rewarded for that content. The problem is that the monetization is happening, but this monetization is being, benefited or is benefiting the centralized agencies who are the power centers. Imagine any website or video channel where you go and put your content, you get a fraction of the profit or the money which is coming from that particular content. Now, when we come to the Web 3, now this is a game-changing paradigm in which the applications, what we are talking about, they are not following the norms of Web 2. So what really it means, and let's look at it like this. So the applications, the structure that we see in Web 2, where we have got front-end part of the application, we have got the back-end part of the application, and there is a mechanism to connect these back-end from the front end. And Avinash will go into much more details into this tech stack. But right now, let me be at level of the business understanding, where the front-end applications are connecting to the back-end which are which are in all the cases centralized. Now, these centralized servers could be your own company's on-premise database, your storage, or you could still go and use some of the centralized cloud services. For example, there are services like Amazon AWS, you have got Google GCP, you have got Microsoft Azure, there are many others. Now, they are centralized, and they are giving you an ability to host these data, host these applications. But at the end of the day, all these data points, all these applications are stored in one central place. Now, that is something which is definitely not the best way. And because you always are running the risk of being censored, or you are always running the risk of being, controlled by these entities. Now, if some cloud service, they don't like you, for example, for any reason, they can go and shut down your website in a moment. Now, these are the restrictions. But when we talk about decentralized applications, now these are the applications which do not have any central server, which either hosts your applications, the front end, and there is a catch there, I will talk about that later. But ideally speaking, all these applications do not have any components which are centralized in nature. However, if you look at some of these decentralized applications today, we also see a trend of hosting some of these front-end application part in some of these cloud services, which in my opinion will change slowly to a point where, in fact, you will be storing your front-end part of the application also in the decentralized way. Now, that is something which we're talking about. We will be showing you many examples today of what kind of Dapps that you can visualize, what kind of Dapps which are already there in this, in the current time. So ideally speaking, we talk about Dapps which really are completely becoming free from any central entities, either for application storage, in fact, data storage, and we will talk about that as well, to just give you perspective. Deepak, go to the next slide, please. Now, some of the features we talked about. Now, one thing you have to understand, that Web3 space is a place where a lot of collaboration is happening. And that really gives rise to the open source culture. For example, I'll give you an example. So what happens typically, that you come up with a source, with an application, Dapp, and what the industry kind of typically does in the Web2 world or before, that this application becomes an asset, which is typically not shared by the company with the outer world. Now, in Web3, in the blockchain decentralized world, what we have seen, that people who write code, most of this code is exposed to the world, so that people who think they can do, who can improvise upon this code, who can improvise upon the function, they will take this code and work upon that, modify it, and make the system better. Now, that is something which really leads to a lot of innovation, and I think maybe we can talk about that after some time, when you will see a lot of innovation is happening. And this is like a perfectly, Lego, if you really understand what I'm saying, that where you have got different pieces coming together and, giving you, a completely new set of business possibilities, which is, in my opinion, which is one of the reasons that in last these 10 years or 15 years or so, this space has grown so much. People have not held on to their assets, within their boundary and not exposing it. That's very important thing for you to understand. The second part we talked about, decentralized. Now, this decentralization of the application, of the businesses, they really have, opened several, new and more, mature way of doing business, where you are not dependent on any third party entity in order to, conduct your business. Now, if you imagine the world that we are seeing in decentralized world today, where something is called DeFi, which is called decentralized finance. Now, decentralized finance, for example, has all the businesses that happen in the conventional finance world, but all these things are happening here in a very different way, without having any central bank coming into the picture. Now, why is it so important? It is important because it is giving you the freedom, it is giving you the control of your life in your own hands. And this is one of the reasons why this space is moving so fast. Now, one thing you have to understand, I'm coming to my third point, incentive. One thing you have to appreciate it very, very strongly is that now when you have a centralized entity, when you have got a controlled environment, then people behave in a particular way because they are expected, they are forced to behave in a particular way. But the moment you are talking about an open world, people are, not everybody is nice. Now, so what happens basically, that if you do not have a control mechanism in place, then what really happens, that there has to be some mechanism to incentivize the good behavior and penalize bad behavior. Now, all these things that I'm talking about, they are deep subjects in blockchain, which we will be covering when we go to our module 2 in very, very detailed way. But for today's session, you have to appreciate one fact, that there has to be an incentivization mechanism which will incentivize people to behave in the right way. And if you don't behave in the right way, then you will get penalized. Now, how does it happen? Of course, the community force comes into picture. The community comes together, decides on a set of rules, and whoever is not, following that rule, they kind of get either kicked out, their rights are taken away, or they are penalized financially also. Now, these very, very important things, what right now I am laying the foundation of this decentralized application world. And lastly, there are several protocols which are coming here. Now protocol can mean many things, right? So let us say that Bitcoin came first, and as like we were talking yesterday, Bitcoin came. Bitcoin gave us an opportunity to transfer money from one to another person without any third party. But that was lacking programmability. You could not really do much more on top of that. Then came Ethereum, which brought in smart contract, platform programmability, where you started writing your business logic, that I want the banking to happen like this. I want the insurance to happen like this. Under these conditions, if the, insurance criteria, is fulfilled, the money automatically gets given to the person who is insured. There are so many things really started. But then what happens, Ethereum also had a lot of issues in terms of performance, in terms of scalability, which they are right now working on. They're coming up with ETH 2.0, in which they are solving many of the problems. But, there are other protocols which started working on this. Now, there are different protocols which Avinash will be talking about more in the next session. But you have to understand that this world is a very, very evolving world, where innovations are happening at a pace which you cannot even imagine. So how do you start? The first thing is that you should try with us to get to a foundation level. Once you start appreciating this world at a foundational level, then you will start appreciating all the innovations which are happening in this space. There are L2s coming. There is a very strong technology which is coming, zero knowledge proof, which is solving many of the problems this space is having right now. Then we are talking about, we're talking about the data availability. That is something which is very, very important point in today's world in blockchain. So there are several things happening. But to be able to appreciate those points, you first need to understand what is blockchain, what is consensus, what is proof of work mechanism, what is proof of stake mechanism, how do validators get chosen, how are different blockchain protocols, how are they managing the same problem, how are they solving some of these problems, and every protocol may have their own way to look at the problem, right? So it is very important for you to appreciate these basics, and then you start building upon that, right? Deepak, go to the next slide, please. Now, there's something which I really want to cover very quickly. that when you look at a Web2 application and Web3 application, it may happen, it really has not reached that stage, but in some point in time, you may not be able to feel the difference, whether it is a Web2 application or Web3 application. Right now, if you look at the Web3 applications, you have a requirement to connect your wallet, which kind of gives you a feeling that, this is Web3 application. But other than that, if you look at the application, typically you will not find much difference. And ideally, they should not be. Because if this technology has to go to mass adoption, this particular difference has to go away. I should be given an application, I should be given a screen, which exactly I have been using for last 10 years. You should not expect the users to change. So coming from that perspective, what really happens, and let me go a little technical here, rest I will leave to my fellow speaker Avinash to cover in his talk. But then right now, when user get into what exactly he is doing or she is doing, that he is hitting the Dapps. So he lands on the Dapp, that is the application. Now, this application is a front end, which typically is exactly of the same stack in most of the cases, what you see in Web2. These could be Angular, these could be, React, these of course will have, your HTML, your styling will be there using CSS, all those things will be very common. But once you kind of make this front end, and when the user interacts by giving some command, there comes an interface here, which we call Web3, or they are Java, they are a specific type of JavaScript libraries. Now there are many choices. What I'm showing right now is Web3. There is another one which is called ethers.js. There are many ways. Now, the purpose of these libraries is primarily to help you connect, do certain transactions, connecting to the blockchain, right? And then be able to do your transaction. Now, what really happens in these libraries that, when you connect to a blockchain, like I was explaining it yesterday, that you need to have your own private key. Why is this private key important? This private key is equivalent to your password in current world. Now, in blockchain and Web3 world, these private keys are used to sign the transaction. If you are going and doing some transaction on the blockchain, you need to verify, you need to authenticate yourself that I am the guy and I have the necessary credentials to do this function, right? So Web3.js will give you so many things. So I think I'll leave that for now, but then this is a gateway to your blockchain, Now, you also understand the access point, what really happens. So these are basically, if you really look at these commands, so there are different types of nodes. Now, you must understand, and you already would understand by now, that blockchain, resides on nodes. What are these nodes? These nodes are nothing but they are computers. These computers are running a particular blockchain network software, right? So, for example, if you are working in Ethereum, then there is a virtual environment which is called EVM, Ethereum Virtual Machine. Now, for you to become a node, you need to be running this EVM software on your machine, right? Now, the question is that if you are a simple user, you cannot go and go and start running all these nodes to be able to use the system, right? So there has to be a mechanism. So there are, what happens, basically we call it, these calls are called remote procedure calls, RPC calls. And what really happens that you take help of some companies who run their, these blockchains node on their servers, basically. So they are the routers, basically. So your command gets routed to those nodes, and from those nodes, because those nodes have the ability to go and fire some transaction because they are nodes of that particular blockchain. That's what we talk about access pointing. Now, I'll go to the next point. So smart contract. Now, a smart contract in the simplest language is nothing but a program. Now, a smart contract can be written in several languages depending upon which blockchain you are working on. Now, these smart contracts are basically, programs which get built, they get deployed first in the test environment, and then they get deployed in the production environment. And these smart contracts can be called by people who have got the access or who have got the identification credentials for that particular blockchain. Now, how does it happen? Now, from the front end, for example, you are working on a lending application or borrowing application. You want to fire a transaction to a smart contract and ask for some money. Now, smart contract is a program, as I said earlier, which has different functions. Now, if you are aware of the OOPS programming language, there are different functions. All these functions have their logic written in that. They accept some parameter, and when the function gets called, it does something, and then finally it gives you the result. That's what exactly it is. So smart contracts are basically the deployed programming ability, which gives the business context to everything here. Let's keep it for that. And finally, blockchain, we talked about this is basically a network of computers who are basically running a uniform software. All Bitcoin nodes, they run Bitcoin software. All Ethereum nodes, they run Ethereum software, like that. So all these nodes peer-to-peer, they have an ability to talk to each other. And it is a little more complex than that, but I am abstracting the complexity here for you and make you understand that these are basically peer-to-peer network, which runs the same software and which caters to the request of all the business users who want to function in that particular blockchain. Hope this makes sense. Deepak, can you please go to the next slide? Now, I will touch upon something which is very important point, that when we talk about these blockchains, something which really comes in mind, that what all do we store data? Where do we store data? What all do we store on the chain? Now, one thing you have to understand, that blockchains are made to store data, maybe, hashes, for example. So blockchains are not made for storing, big bulk of data, because once you do that, it becomes very expensive. You cannot afford. I mean, nobody, and blockchains are not meant for that. So typically we store very limited set of information on blockchain, and the bulky data. For example, you must have heard of NFTs, non-fungible tokens, right? Now these NFTs are basically having big file images. They might be big videos. They might be movies. Now NFTs can be made of anything, right? So now if you start storing all this information on chain, then it becomes an impossible task. So what you do, now you have got two choices. You have to store it offline, that is for sure. Now for storing it offline, either you can go and choose, for example, a cloud server, or you can store it on your own on-prem data server, or there is a third way, which is more appropriate, which is basically, decentralized way of storing data. Now, if you can just go and keep the data on a cloud, if the cloud goes down, or if the cloud shuts you down, your data is gone. If you are on your own machine, then of course it really has to do a lot of things for you to basically, maintain the data availability, etc. It's a very complicated process. So the third model that I'm talking about, which I am interested in talking here, which is called IPFS. Now, IPFS stands for Interplanetary File System. Now, this is a decentralized way of storing your data, which you are not planning to store on chain. How does it do? And there again, it's a very interesting technology where you have, when you submit your file, then it kind of goes and splits the file into smaller chunks, and ultimately, there is mechanism of segregating these data different chunks and aggregating it when you ask for, and it will give you a content ID. Now, the interesting part here, guys, is that this content ID is dependent on the content. Now, if your content changes, your content ID changes. So that is where, that is where this IPFS mechanism is basically, immutable. You cannot go and change the data and keep the content ID same. Now, this content ID that you get, you can use it in many ways. You can go and use them in NFTs. You can go and, use it several places. Now, this is the basic infrastructure that I'm talking about for off-chain data. Now, there are so many improvements on this. Now, there is a company called Protocol Labs who have created this IPFS. There is improvement on top of that. There is another tool that has come up, which is called Filecoin. Now, Filecoin is one layer above IPFS. In fact, it is using IPFS, but then what they have done, they are trying to go and leverage the extra space which is available across the globe. Whoever has got some extra storage, they can participate in Filecoin. Now, how they do, they have to run the Filecoin software on their machine, and whatever data they have, whatever storage space they have, they will be able to use that storage and earn reward for giving space to store the data. Now, and this will be used in different decentralized applications where people want to store data offline. They can go to offline, and Filecoin will ensure that the data is available. Now, that is something which is a business model that has come come along. And lastly, there is something called RV. This is again, if you really want to store data for a long-term basis, then these applications. There are many applications which are there, but underlying fact is still the same, that you cannot store huge amount of data on chain. You have to go offline, and for doing offline, you have got several options. Either you can go for centralized cloud servers, or in a decentralized way where you have got this IPFS, Filecoin, Arweave, and all these solutions which have come, which help you storing your data in the decentralized way. I hope it makes sense to you. We will definitely be talking about all these things, much more elaborate way in our module 2. But today I wanted to set the context. Deepak, go to next, please. Yeah, go back. Yeah, so I have already covered IPFS. Only one point I would want to cover here. IPFS will not guarantee you that your data is always available. Mind this. How do you do that? There are several services in which, for example, you have to go and pin your data storage. When you pin it, then this becomes available for a long time. And there are some tools for doing that, such as there is a tool called Pinata, which provides a service, in which it will pin your file. When it, what I mean by saying, when you pin a file, then it becomes available there. In IPFS, what happens when you store a file, then this file gets distributed, and all the nodes who are participating in that IPFS system, those guys have got the freedom to keep the data on their node. Now, if nobody wants that data, then your data gets lost. There is no guarantee. Your data is available until at least one person is available keeping your data. Now, if that person is also, for example, only one person is keeping your data and that person goes offline, your data is gone. That is where pinning the file is very important, right? Now, there are so many other concepts, we will talk about it. But I think, Deepak, with this kind of, I come to conclusion of my presentation. I will not take any question right now. Let's go to our next speaker, and then we will address all questions and answers together after his session is done.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. Yeah, so there are a few questions, and we'll address them together after our next speaker is done with his with his session. So, guys, first of all, I really appreciate the fact that our next speaker, who is the Chief Technical Officer of the Nitro Network, is here with us, because it's really hard to grab hold of him, especially during these times where he has been heavily occupied with a lot of tasks, and he has always been involved with our as a partner. He and his team has been involved actively in making our sessions or workshops or on-ground hackfests lively in the most possible manner. We always get multiple speakers from our partner Nitro Network. Even during the hackfest, we had many speakers from the Nitro Network team. So I really appreciate the fact that Avinash sir, you could take out the time and join with us, requesting you to kindly take the conversation ahead. Once again, sir, thank you so much. You can begin your presentation now.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Pravin. That was really insightful. I would like to thank IBC Media, and I think we have about more than 100 participants. Really great to see very strong motivation around this. Okay, quickly. So I would want to structure this conversation into 3 parts. One, we talk about Web3, the transition from Web2 to Web3 technically, like conceptually, we've been hearing about why Web3 is important, how people are moving, how companies are moving from Web2 to Web3, and how the tech will be evolved, is evolving. And the third part would be, I would want to take a use case, show you guys how the decentralized transactions happen on the chain, how you connect to a wallet, how a transaction gets posted, how do you go and check the code, what do you see, and how do you verify a smart contract on the blockchain. So I would want to spend a little bit more time on showing you guys how, let's say a sample project like Nitro Network, we came up with our own NFT. We call it a NFM, called non-fungible miner, but I'll come to it, come to that section of it. Then I'll also highlight some of the tools that we will need, or you will need, in the overall ecosystem for building, for testing, for security, for audit, for everything. And then we go into a QA session with myself and Praveen, and then following that, we will have a session with Mr. Deepak Chaudhary, and then following which we'll have another QA session. So looking forward to this session. Very, very excited to be here. Looking forward to all the madness on how Web3 is evolving and changing the world. So quickly to start the vehicle, we have a transition from how Web3, Web 1.2, 1.0 to Web 2.0 to Web 3.0, and how Praveen was explaining about how the data was initially read-only. Then we came to about how data is centralized. So today, if I log into my Facebook, my Instagram, I use my email address, my phone number authentication on Instagram, and how data is shared across different platforms, knowingly or unknowingly. For example, I'll give you an example. If you just go to Google and you start typing Korean language, right? So after 4 or 5 days, you start seeing Korean conversion, you start seeing Korean text, you start seeing, so the platforms which are centralized are learning from the consumers, the data, your data, all the activity is recorded, and that data is being used to learn and improvise the product. So here in this case, you are the product. So same goes for all the centralized platforms where the data is shared, whether it is, so even if you look at the section here called Dropbox, Airbnb, YouTube, if you go to Snapchat, even your Google search activity is being stored on Google, unless you go and disable your search history, your activity history, or premium history. Data is getting saved at every place, and then there is heavy learning happening at all those places, and it is being used to target for advertising, for example. And then how it works in terms of Web 2, where there is very strong advertising, where you go to Google and you type something, basically you get ads on the top, which are paid ads, and there is ads to the right-hand side where you people who are placing those ads bid for the ads based on the targeting of the users. For example, I would want to, we are currently, it's based out of Hyderabad in India, and we say, I want to target men for a shopping brand who is in the range of 18 to 24 in like specific areas of Hyderabad, right? So that specific activity, that specific data centralized, that specific set of users, the data for all of that section of category of users are with the centralized servers. And that is where there is a problem, because you don't control your own data. So that's where we have Web3, where we are saying that there is no data which is stored on centralized servers. There is absolute ownership of all the data. So for example, if you look at Web3, where we have all the different types of apps, whether it is gaming apps, whether it is finance, whether it is insurance, whether it is any kind of social media applications on decentralized platforms, all of that we say, and we are able to claim saying that all of this data is all decentralized. We do not have any centralized section where the data is being shared. So very important. And we will look at this demo in Web3 where we are saying that anything and everything you do is all decentralized. You create a wallet. In the wallet, you basically use that wallet address as an authentication. So we'll come to that section where we actually see how Web3 with decentralized data plays a very important role in removing all of these intermediaries. So coming to that section, Deepak, can you please go to the next one? Okay, so we saw Praveen talking about L1s and L2s and L0s. So basically, just to give you a little bit context technically of how these L0s, L1s, L2s work, right? So if you look at L0, L0 or the layer 0, we basically provides networking capabilities for building peer-to-peer networks. An example for this is, let's say, we have a very strong interoperability feature at Polkadot, which is built on the Substrate framework, right? So more on the Polkadot will be covered by Mr. Deepak Chaudhary after this session. If you look at Bitcoin, if you look at Avalanche, if you look at Ethereum, these are all protocols where these are all L1 protocols where they have their own network, they have their own consensus mechanism, they have their own way of validating those transactions and adding those transactions to block. So you actually build a blockchain, right? So very important. I am currently assuming that some of these audiences, some of these people in the audience is part of major people comprising from computer science department. Some of them might be electrical, mechanical, IT, civil. It's fine. You do not need to have any computer science background for this. Believe me, there is absolutely no learning experience required. It's okay to have no programming experience. This, just to give you a fact, Bitcoin was built in C++ as a network. So absolutely fine, no prior experience required. One, there is no, and we say that, and I say that every time, this is not an investment advice. We want you guys to understand the technology behind everything. If you hear about blockchain, if you hear about Ethereum, if you hear about Polkadot, right? These are all technically built applications with a network of servers and nodes, and there is blocks being created, there is transactions being validated, and I'll come to how a transaction is actually added to the block, and then how that is being added to the network. So this L1 and L2 basically talks about the underlying blockchain architecture on which everything gets built, right? And then there is L3, where we say that it's a layer of human readable languages, let's say Solidity, in which you write smart contracts on Ethereum, right? I will come to that because Ethereum is the most widely used smart contract platform as on date, and has wider adoption when compared to other blockchains in the same space. And then we have layer 4, which provides an interface to interact with the Web3. So we'll see a demo of how all of this is working. But just to clarify and understand and set the context and set the terminology right, where we are saying, okay, when we talk about Polkadot, we know it is used for interoperability between blockchains. When we talk about Bitcoin or Ethereum or Polkadot, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Avalanche, Solana, all of these are all like L1s, where it has its own, and I'll show you how these transactions are looked at. So I'll share my screen in a few minutes to explain you the different explorers. I'll explain you how the transactions are confirmed. I'll also explain how smart contract code has to be viewed and verified. So quickly, just the overall tech stack, where we have all the different layers, and each layer has its own importance. Each layer also has very, very big companies working on its own. So we'll come to that. But please understand, these are the foundations. We are only going back to the basics. No prior experience is required. And it's absolutely okay to say, I do not know anything, I don't know what's happening, and I would want more information. So there is no good thing, no bad thing, no good question, no bad question. At the end of this session, I would want people to ask the dumbest of the questions, and it will be absolutely fine. So continuing to that, yeah. So there are two types of. I think there is a slide which is missing, I guess. Hold on one second. I added another slide, but it's fine. Okay, fine. So to look at the to create an application, right? Very simple. Currently, if you create an application, I'll give you a very simple application example, right? Very simple example. Let's say property listing example, right? So you have a list of properties. Okay, listing a property. There is a list of property. Take an example of 99 acres, Magic Bricks, housing.com. So you have a list of all houses or apartments or properties or lands or commercial, residential, whatever. And then you see it on the front end. And then there is a back end where, if you can go to the next section, please. Okay, and can you like zoom a little bit on the left? Is it possible? No, yeah. Okay, fine. As long this is fine. So there is a front end, which is, it could be HTML, it could be CSS, it could be Bootstrap, it could be mobile responsive, and there is a front end full stack framework. Let's say you use React.js or maybe Node.js, or sorry, React.js or AngularJS, right? So you build a front end application, and there is a back end where you store credentials, you store user master table, you have property master table, you have all the different elements in the backend. Now, basically what you do is you create APIs in between, and then you interact between the front end and the backend, right? So one is you list all the properties, you have the authentication stored in the backend, you have all the property master stored in the backend, and then you basically have your client facing, which is the front end. You have API calls. There is a web server which is hosting all of your HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and all the different web elements. There is respective API calls for authentication, get properties, my account, my selections, shortlisted, my payments, all kind of my profile. Then there is an application logic where you define application logic for payments, for logic for saying, oh, I have this filter criteria that I can shortlist my searches. And then obviously all of this data goes into the DB. So the idea is this very simple application in Web 2 has a front end, an interfacing layer where you make API calls, and there is a backend, which is a database. You might be aware of database like MySQL or Oracle or SQL Server or even MongoDB if you go for NoSQL databases. That's Web 2. Now, all of this information, let's say your property master, your user master, everything is stored on the server, and your front end is just making calls to the back end, right? But if you come to Web 3, what we are saying is there is no username, password, okay? Now, if there is no username, password, how will I say what is mine, right? So how do you say that this 3 properties, like for example, I could be a buyer, I could be a seller, right? I'm looking for a property, I'm going to Davos, I'm going to let's say Dubai, and I'm trying to, I have some properties which are on rent, but I also have some property that I want to look for myself. So how do I say which is mine and what is mine, right? So we say that there is a decentralized way that you have a wallet. Now, if you look at this, there's a front-end application. Now this connects to a wallet. Now after the screen, I'll show you how a connectivity happens. But when you connect to a wallet, now, as Praveen was saying, that there is a private key, right? So if you have a wallet, or let's say MetaMask, right? It's a very easy Chrome extension. Now, in this a wallet, you create an account. Now, again, you store that data on your machine. It's nothing that MetaMask as a wallet will store, right? So all of that information is related to a wallet address. Now, this wallet address has a private key. Now, once you make a request and you say, oh, this is my account, this is my property, then we are linking all of that property information to a wallet ID. Now, it could be hash code generated, system generated hash code, which is something like 0x2FE. It's a full encrypted hash code, and it's something that cannot be decoded. It's not like I have abc@def.com. So this transaction, so whenever there is a transaction, so let's say I shortlist a property and I want to say this property I am blocking from, let's say, 17th of February to 28th of February or 26th of February, and I would want to block this property as part of an Airbnb transaction or something. This transaction is then executed on a blockchain. So if you look at the application logic where there is an API request call here, this RPC request is sent as a transaction saying this wallet address is trying to block these dates in a smart contract, these dates, and please confirm this transaction with this payment, right? So once you get that transaction, again, that transaction is then, sent to the network. That network validates the transaction, adds that transaction to the block, and then the block is added to the chain. And that's how it's called a blockchain. So very, very important that we understand the core concepts of blockchain. We understand the core concepts of how a transaction is validated, how a transaction is added. When do you trigger a transaction? Like Praveen was saying, we don't store everything on the blockchain. I don't need to store my property images on the blockchain. So I see some hands being raised. We will address all of these questions. But let's, so I was saying that one is understanding the core concept of what to store on the blockchain. Like, I don't want to store my property images. Like master data, even in Web 2, is stored separately. Transactional data is still stored separately, right? So very, very important. One, identifying the data which is being stored, to where and what the data is going on blockchain. So whether, let's say you have property images, you want to store everything on IPFS, right? As Praveen was saying, pinning the images, collections and all that stuff. So that is very important. Second is when it comes to NFTs. So I'll take this next few minutes to go over the project. I'll share my screen and I'll explain you how the different blockchains are shown, how the different wallets work, how the different explorers work. So I'm going to share my screen quickly. Just a second. You guys see my screen, Deepak?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So quickly, I'll give you an example. Let's say buy.nitro.network, right? Now, if you look at the screen, right now, if you look at the screen, there is, it's loading. Okay, so this Nitro Network is basically a Web3 company where we have created something called as a NFT. Now, NFT is a non-fungible token. Okay. Now, if you see here, there is no username, password, there is no login, right? There is no email sign up, right? So the way it works is you say connect wallet. Now, if you connect a wallet, you need a wallet. Like if you look at this icon at the top here, it says MetaMask, right? So it's a Chrome extension. Okay, Chrome extension, easy, very, very self-explanatory, understanding how it is. Again, this is not an investment advice. Do not put any real money into it. To understand the tech, it's very important. So I'm just trying to explain you how it works. We're not promoting any purchase. We're not promoting any token. We're only trying to understand how an application. So if you see an application, this application here, this is built on a full stack application connecting to a blockchain network. This is built using React.js on the web framework, and there is obviously all decentralized connecting networks. So when I click on connect to wallet, it basically opens my MetaMask extension. Now here, let's say I log in here. Okay, so if you see here, it is saying that I'm connected using this wallet. Now 0xA63, if I just expand this, I have this one account here on the Avalanche network. Now, what is Avalanche network? Avalanche is also another L1. Okay, so I'm gonna come back here. I'm sorry, Deepak, I'm going into
No worries, all good.
a few things here. So I added a sheet here, and I wanted to explain you how a transaction gets added to the blockchain. But here, if you look at this section, a MetaMask section of a Chrome extension. Now, at the top here, you have Avalanche network, right? Now here, I also have Ethereum. So let me explain you how and why this is important to show the network and how I want to connect to the network. Like there are so many L1s. So if you go here to my slide here, I have L1s and L2s. Now I have Ethereum network, I have Avalanche network, I have Solana network. There's so many L1s available, right? Now, you can build a project, a prototype, a pilot, or even a small MVP, or even your own startup on any of these blockchains. But there is a criteria to select a blockchain as to what blockchain you want to build this on, right? So Nitro Network is basically built on a network called Avalanche Network, okay? And after this session, after the Q&A, we will look at Ethereum and Polkadot as blockchains. The reason I'm looking at this is to understand and show you how this thing works. So I can change this to Ethereum. I am so remember, any of the EVM, which Praveen was also talking about, the IDs will be the same, 0xA. So let me explain you. So if I go to etherscan.io, now etherscan.io is the Ethereum L1 Ethereum's blockchain explorer. So if you look at this, it talks about the price, it talks about transactions, it talks about 12 TPS, 12 transactions per second is the current TPS provided by the Ethereum network. And if you look at this, it talks about a transaction. Now it talks about from this address, some tokens or some transaction has happened to this address. So this is an explorer where if I just type in my wallet address, see, it starts with 0xA63 and ends with DF1D. It says that, oh, I do not have any balance. I do not have any transactions. Now, if I go back to the Avalanche network here, as you see here, because I was in the Ethereum network, I went to etherscan.io. If I have to change a different network and I have to go, if I want to go to a different blockchain network, I would go to their, it's called snowtrace.io. Now, snowtrace.io is again the explorer for the Avalanche network. And if I type in the same address, I would get same thing because it's my wallet on this network. Now, the reason I'm talking about this, the reason I'm trying to talk about how this network works is if you look at a sample application, what we have said is we are splitting this into an EMI module. So you go into a bank, you want to buy a car, and then you say, oh, I want to buy a car. Why don't you give me EMI options, right? So what we are trying to sell is, as an example, again, no advice, is we're trying to build the functionality wherein you can do part payments at 0% EMI without credit card. So for example, if you look at this EMI payment, there is NFT, there is outstanding amount, and then this is related to when I click on buy, I choose whatever, I say calculate, and then I say approve. And when I approve, this is what is happening. When I approve this transaction, it basically asks me the authorization to execute this transaction on the network. Now, if I'm saying give permission, I might not have the gas fee. I think we will cover a little more detail in the following sessions about what is the transaction fee, we know which platforms are better for gas fees, and few other things. And obviously, we will have more from Polkadot and Ethereum perspective. But in order to execute a transaction, right? So basically, what we are trying to do is give authorization and authorize my payment, saying that, okay, I want to engage into an EMI model, right? Now, when we do an EMI model, we basically say that this is a contract. So when you authorize a transaction, that transaction is going into this contract. So this is a smart contract where we say smart contract is the logic written in Solidity, where we are saying take this payment and as a functionality, as a sample example, I'm explaining, where we're saying I want to buy this object, a car or a phone or a home, into 5 installments, as an example, and then you buy by paying first installment, your next installment is due, whatever, and then there is next installment. So when you execute a transaction like I was showing you, it basically interacts with a smart contract, right? And if you look at this section here, if you go to contract, you can actually look at the Solidity code. Now it is basically interacting. Okay, hold on. Yeah, this is a mortgage contract. It's called a Nitro mortgage, where we're trying to say that functionality of this smart contract is to say and track that, oh, you have paid first EMI, now you have 4 EMIs pending. So all of this logic is incorporated in the Solidity code. Okay, so if you look at this code, we also are doing something called as a reward distribution. Now, reward distribution is whenever you pay the first installment, you are rewarded with some incentives, right? So as and when you make the payments on EMIs, you get rewards. So the idea is to understand the flow, the first flow being from the front end, you are executing a transaction. That transaction is interacting through my MetaMask to a contract, and it is actually executing a function. So for example, if I'll explain you that function, let me scroll down, look at this function called buy and stake, right? So I am saying that, okay, initial invalid token, there is an authentication token, and then I am saying call this function. Okay, now I'm calling this function, it's an internal function, and then it basically looks at, you remember we had a pop-up just now as to how many I am buying. So it goes into the loop and it basically saying take this payment and update the balance of the person. So all of this logic, please do not go into the complexity of you do not understand programming, I don't like coding and all. This is very, very object oriented. This is very easy to implement and requires no prior knowledge. So all of this source code, the contract, the updating of the payment tokens, updating of the collections, the max duration, where we are saying that, oh, I want this whole EMI functionality to be over in, let's say, 3 months or 100 days or 6 months. You can do that, update maximum durations to pay, update beneficiary, the balances, update collection fee. So I might also incorporate a fee if the EMIs are not being paid. So it's really object oriented. It is really easy. It's really contextual to what the requirement is. So the idea of showing you this is to understand, saying that, oh, one, it's not easy. It's not like a drag and drop and no source code logic. It is defined, it is structured, and it clearly this does not require invention, right? All we have to do is discovery. So, and then when you see this tick mark, if you see the tick mark, this means that one, this contract is verified, which means we'll come to the security part in a few minutes. But if you look at this contract, I'll explain you this buy and stake. So this transaction hash, I'm opening this transaction. This happened 2 days, 13 hours ago, right? I open this. Now, this transaction says that this is from this address. Now, this is not our address. Now, this is a from address. C1E8 is somebody on their browser connected to MetaMask, created an account on MetaMask. It's their own private wallet with their own private key, launched the portal, connected through this wallet and interacted with our function. Now, if you look at this, it has come from this and it has gone to this. Now, this is part of the contract where we say all the received funds for the EMI has to go into this function here. And they have paid about $38, right? If you click to see more, it talks about the gas limit. It talks about the function which it called. Remember, buy and stake is a function I told you that it has part of the contract code. So if I go into the code, I can actually see. So this person is actually interfaced through the MetaMask, through that application logic, and interacted with the smart contract and executed this function, right? So if I say decode input data, right? So it'll actually real-time decode this, right? So if you look at this, this is a collection, this is a pay token, this is the number of NFTs is 1, and then this is the number of, this is the amount of $38. Now this is coming into the UINT 256 type, but this is actually $38. So, and if you look at logs here, you can actually look at due paid, right? Because what happens is we first check what the due paid is. Oh, whether this guy is there any due for this? And then there is transfer, and then is obviously approval. So there is a sequence. Again, this is very, very structured, easy. As long as you understand the flow, as long as you understand the process, I think we are sorted with building custom dApps on any network. It doesn't have to be, it's not like it's easy on Ethereum and it's difficult on Avalanche, or it's very difficult on Polka. I believe that if you follow the structure of development, if you follow the structure for how a transaction is posted, if you follow the process of what goes on the blockchain and why it is important to go on the blockchain, I think the easiest solution is this. Now, to continue on that, if you look at my next section, so basically I put a use case section, and then I added the EMI sample module, intending to explain how the smart contract actually works, and then obviously show you that the transaction is posted on the network as a transaction is added to the block and that is being shown here. Now, most important section, I'm gonna view as a full slide. How do I minimize this height control, right? Okay, now there are so many tools available. Now, if you look at from the top or from the bottom, I would say come from the bottom. We have private cloud, hybrid cloud, public cloud. These are some of the sections where you store, let's say, you can store images on decentralized, like what Praveen was talking about on Pinata or even IPFS sections. Then you have storage where you also have Filecoin and storage and SIA. And so all of these sections where you can also store data decentralized way. You have node infrastructure, and then you have indexing protocols, oracles. Now, oracles is a really important concept in blockchain where once the smart contract is coded, it cannot be changed. Okay, if there is an agreement between a buyer and a seller, and it's coded into a smart contract and it is published on the network, it cannot be altered. What it means is that if there is a component which has to be interacted with an external party, okay, which means that an external data source or an API call that you need to make, you would need oracles. So oracles is a way where you interact with an external third party source into a smart contract. And you have languages here. You have Web2 native, you have JavaScript, Rust, TypeScript, Python, and then you have Web3 native where you have Solidity, Reach, Viper. But in order to to build a smart contract, I think I would say if I follow the 80-20 rule, I would stick with Solidity and Rust, because if you look at the major platform of Polkadot, which is built on the Substrate framework, we would definitely follow Rust as a programming language. And it's very easy. It's not rocket science. It is easy to learn for everyone as long as you give enough time to it. I have seen chemical engineering people, I have seen industrial experts moving to Web3 and learning these languages. It's that I would not say easy, it's that process driven, where you spend time, you learn it, and then you improvise on it. There are different frameworks available, development frameworks. Truffle is definitely a hard hat, and Truffle are the major ones which are used to interact with the Ethereum blockchain. You have SDKs where it provides you easy integration to the different blockchains. We have Open Zeppelin libraries where you also use them to build libraries, build smart contracts. You have IDES, you can use anything. I think the easiest that everyone follows is Visual Studio Code. Any type of program, anything is possible. Integration using the command line tools to test everything in Visual Studio is pretty easy and straightforward. We have public testnets where, so in a traditional 3-tier architecture where you have dev, QA, and production, even in blockchain you have something called as a testnet and a mainnet, right? So testnet is something where you can test transactions, you don't have heavy fees, you can execute a transaction very quickly, and you can test your code, test your smart contract easily. So there are testnets, and then once you are good, you can move stuff to mainnet. Now again, security, as I was talking about, there are different layers of security. There is one secure development, there is auditing and analysis, there is runtime intelligence, there is penetration testing, and there is protocol management. Now, very important that even a single line of code can cause a smart contract to fail or create a loophole in it. So the idea is there are so many agencies who actually provide certification on your smart contract. So today, let's say you write a smart contract to, let's say if you are getting an insurance, right? And there is a party that you say, okay, I want to engage into a contract where these are the terms of the insurance, these are the number of years that you pay, this is your monthly, yearly payment. So you put it into the contract. But once your smart contract is coded in, let's say, Solidity or Rust with the Substrate framework, and you want to post that transaction on the chain, you can also engage any of these agencies to certify and validate and check if there are any vulnerabilities. That is why you also have the testnet, where you can test the contract, give the contract to the security agency validates the contract, find out if there are loopholes, and then says, oh, there are like 1 critical vulnerability, 5 medium, and let's say 10 lows in terms of hanging variables, in terms of memory leaks, in terms of all of that stuff. So people who are interested into cybersecurity, people who are interested into security perspective, ethical hacking, they would definitely want to understand and move into the space where you want to provide, go into the direction for Web3 security. I think that's very important section of it. And then there is obviously your different education spaces and contributions available. I think open source contribution is what Praveen was talking about. I would say that people who are interested or who would want to go into Web3 or become a Web3 developer, one very, very strong development requirements. I think more than anything, you need not have any experience, any knowledge in the background. You can start with strong motivation to learn full stack development. I think interfacing with blockchain, interfacing with any blockchain, whether it is Polkadot or Bitcoin or Ethereum or Avalanche or Solana, or even if you want to build anything on NFTs, or even I think we had Praveen talking about Aave and Compound, and we had lending protocols, how people lend, how people borrow, right? Money, all of that. you need to interface. So there is front end, which is HTML, CSS, JavaScript. You have Node to create APIs. You have React for the front end, and then you have smart contract development. So if there is any motivation to build a product, please feel free to understand the core concepts of first why you're doing it, right? And then second, what, and then obviously how and when and who and all will follow. So I think with that, let me just see where we are. Okay, so with this, I would, I'm not sure how much time I have taken, but let's have a quick Q&A, and then we will move to Mr. Deepak Chaudhary. Okay. Can we get the PPTs? Yes, we will get all of these PPTs. Again, all of these images are taken for references, illustration purposes only. Please, if you have any questions, reach out to us on our Discord channel. I would again want to thank IBC for organizing such a wonderful journey, a learning experience for everyone. And any questions anybody asks, please reach out. There is no such thing as a good question or a bad question. Please make sure you ask the dumbest of the questions, because that's what I would do if I do not have anything.
Absolutely. So one of the questions that we had earlier is that DApp is open source. So we had a question from Mr. Sri Varshit.
Yeah.
And the question was that the DApp is open source, right? That means one can modify it. So my doubt is that what if someone tampers it and write it in the way they want?
Okay. So yeah, I think when it comes to saying open source, if you understand how open source works, let's say I have a logic, I make it open source. People can modify it. People can clone a repository and create their own stuff. Absolutely, you're fine with taking a source code, go to github.com, learn from what people have implemented, clone that repository, make changes to it, and then you can create your own stuff. Absolutely okay with it. Many people in the blockchain space do it. Like for example, I've shown you my smart contract, which is open. You can actually see the code. You can take all of that code, create your own project with that source code, change the names if you want to, or you can use the same name as long. It's an open source. It's open source code. Build it again, deploy it, and it's fine. So one is, as long as your solution is being accepted, as long as your solution is adopted by too many people and there is business value being created, we are fine. Ideally, in terms of a truly object-oriented programming where you inherit some of the attributes or code from somebody who's already written the code, you pull that code from, you pull those attributes or methods, the classes and everything from there, and then you improvise your logic. So it's not like when I make a change, if I'm making it, not everything is open source. Like there are so many dApps which are built, some of them are open source. So you can take it, build it, but if I'm building something, I would not depend on your modification. So I'll build the project, test it, validate it, test it, deploy it, and then run it. And if you would want to take that source code and improvise it, absolutely fine with it. And it doesn't mean that whatever you make a change, it's not like it's impacting my production code. So again, this is a 3-tier architecture, dev, QA, production, and there is a process called continuous development and continuous deployment process, where as and when you make changes, you schedule stuff as part of DevOps. So I think very, very important. These are very core concepts, and anybody can do it. So I hope that answers the question.
Yep. So we have more questions coming in. Another question is from Mr. Bharat Kedela. Hello, sir. Can you get some more info about how we can connect the front end and back end and off-chain data storage? How can we connect it if we use React.js?
Yeah, so the application that I showed you, Nitro.network, is in React.js. So that answers the question. It's there are libraries available where you can connect to MetaMask and define the network and execute a transaction. So if just Google it, you will get the full source code or a sample demo project of how to connect a React front-end application to a contract. That's one, very easy, very straightforward. If you need any help, we can provide with you some basic documentation. Two is how can we connect? How we can connect the front end and the back end and off-chain data storage. Off-chain data storage is like the data is not residing on the chain. The data can reside on let's say a SQL Server or a MySQL on an Oracle database or even IPFS or that's an on-chain. Off-chain storage, it could be MongoDB, it could be any of those traditional, relational, or NoSQL databases. The data stays there and you can connect those information like you do anytime, right? So if you have an API call, you connect from the front end, create an API, talk to the off-chain database and interact with it. But if it's on-chain, again, it's the same process of how we would want to connect your front end React to how it would connect to any of the smart contract related stuff. So if there is a smart contract, sample smart contracts are already available on the internet for free in Google. We can create a smart contract, deploy the smart contract to a testnet, and have the React application or a front end application talk to that smart contract via the interface, let's say with a MetaMask. And I think Praveen sir, if you want to add anything to this.
Yeah, no, so you have pretty much covered. So see, one thing that is important here that say, for example, if you are using React.js and if you are using, say, for example, web3.js or ethers.js, these are the important JavaScript libraries. They give you an ability to connect to the backend, number one. So how exactly these things happen, that when you kind of like Avinash was talking about earlier, MetaMask, this is a code extension. And once you install these libraries, for example, Ether.js or Web3.js, then they give you a lot of, inbuilt functions there, basically. So what happens basically, all these JavaScript libraries, if you really look at it, the way they function, that they kind of create some of these important functions. And when you include those, or once you import those libraries, then automatically you get access to those things. Now, those things could be your, your connection handle, for example, or they could be your keys. How do you access that? So they have got standard, functions inbuilt there. Okay, so just include those libraries in your application, and just make use of those. So it's very easy to connect. And like Avi mentioned that if you just go and Google, sample code will also be readily available. So I think nothing so invention about it. It's just going and discovering it. Deepak?
All right, so thank you. So we have another question, and that is from Shreya Dhondi. Is Git a decentralized platform?
Git, no. Yeah, Avi, you want to take that?
Sorry, yeah, no, it is not a decentralized platform. If you look at how this works, you can basically, there are different versions of it. I think one, in order to currently understand your source code versioning system, your repository system, you can have private repositories, public repositories on code. If you have a team working on how multiple developers are working on the same piece of code, I would say GitHub is something that we need to focus on. GitHub is an application of Git. And we need to make sure that all of the source code is managed using GitHub. That's the most popularly used application on Git.
All right. So we have another question, which is, hello, sir. I'll just address the name. So you have a question from Mr. Neeraj. He says, hello, sir. I am from a mechanical background and I'm very much interested in Web3 space. How can I get started?
That is a very good question. I like people, as I told you, I have seen people from chemical, from industrial engineering coming into blockchain and doing wonders. From a mechanical background, it doesn't matter if you do not have any coding experience. Start with a very, very basic application called Hello World, right? So you want to start with a very simple application. Now, there are different spaces in Web3, whether you want to build, let's say, go into a project for NFT, or you want to build an application which is specific to it's any domain, right? Pick a domain. For example, there are a lot of gaming applications coming in Web3. So you can actually build something on Web3 gaming, Web3 lending and borrowing, Web3 NFTs. So there's a lot of spaces and domains. So I think I would suggest you pick up a small project, pick up a small use case, build the front end, very, very basic. It doesn't have to be heavy. And I would say as a beginner, focus on end-to-end execution, right? Very simple interface, very simple smart contract, very simple integration. Once we understand this core concept end-to-end in one specific use case, let's say loans, or let's say the one example I gave you of Airbnb, or an example for a property listing, property booking example. Any simple smart contract, you can actually get open source or full source code of a smart contract available on github.com. Register a free account on github.com. Take up the smart contract, understand how to deploy the smart contract on the test net, create this interface and interact. Once you do the end-to-end execution, then you would be yourself confident of how you can improve the level of smart contract, how you can improve the level of your front-end application, how I can improvise my technical execution on integration, and then how slowly you will improvise your business model and how you can actually start making money on it. So as a beginner, I would say just focus on end-to-end with very, very A type, not even go to XYZ, not even go to B, just go to a very A type of execution end-to-end.
Right, sir. Thank you so much. Praveen, sir, you want to add anything to that?
No, I think so. I agree with Avinash that, you start with a very simple one, like Avinash was talking about earlier. There could be many more complexities you could put in a smart contract, such as, for example, you could go and access data from outside using oracles, the famous oracle being Chainlink right now, if you want to take note of that. But then those will make your smart contract very complex. So maybe, in my opinion, start with a simple smart contract, for example, and you could use any language. You could, and we are going to be talking about Rust in a very, very deep manner in in module 2. So please join this module 2, and I think this is an invitation to everybody who is here. Please join these sessions, and we have got these sessions covering the concept for you in a very, very progressive manner, right? So this will be a good place to start, and write something which is simple. I mean, just write a smart contract which just takes money from 5 people, and you being the smart contract owner, you should have an ability to go and redeem this in your own smart contract. Sorry, in your own wallet address. So I mean, think of something very simple, which gives you the basics and nitty-gritties of programming a smart contract, and then slowly increase the complexity. Go and start using oracles, right? Go and do some, the random variable thing, do some lottery project. You can do many things there, basically, but don't get into those complexities in the beginning. Otherwise, you will start getting demotivated. So I think start from the most basic use case that you can think of.
Right, perfect. So any other comments, Avinash sir, you would like to give before we move further?
No, I think we are good. We also have Mr. Deepak Chaudhary who will address. I think it is pretty straightforward, and it is not difficult. It's not rocket science. Everyone started from scratch on blockchain. So if people have any questions, they can address all the questions on Discord. We are available to address those concerns, provide as much material for people, and then go. If you look at how Polkadot and if you look at how Ethereum works, I think Polkadot is something which is one of the top projects, and I would highly recommend people understanding the substrate framework, understanding how the interoperability feature works with different blockchains, and And again, very easy, very straightforward. When I say easy, it's all process driven. So please understand, I think we would want to really focus on how the core works. And it is just going back to basics as to how this thing works. And, if you're curious to know that, I think we have the solution.
Right, absolutely. Thank you once again, Avinash, sir, for joining us, and I hope you have more time. And if you could just stick around, if there are any questions, we can maybe address them later on. And so yeah, so we'll move on to the next speaker. We have with us Mr. Deepak Chaudhary, who is a blockchain developer, a very young man who will be not just speaking to us today, but we will be doing a lot of technical sessions with Deepak in coming weeks as well. So just to give you a context what Deepak has been doing with IBC Media. So as you know, we already completed a previous CEP with a bunch of students, and we are in the building phase with those students. And in one of those sessions, Deepak worked with about a dozen students to complete some Fala workshops, the context of which I gave you all yesterday. The students who completed the workshop actually got an airdrop of NFTs from the Fala network, one of our sponsors, and they will also be getting 500 Fala tokens, which is close to about, once again, I'm not saying that it is around I'm saying that it is around 1400 rupees, but the numbers can shift here and there by some percentage because the price is always fluctuating. So but the point is that you don't just learn over here at IBC, you are also doing things practically while you're learning. And at the same time, you get experts like Praveen sir, Avinash sir, Deepak Chaudhary here, and many more such mentors who will be guiding you, not just not just to give you a theoretical understanding, but at the same time getting you to execute some practical and real life projects which will actually help you understand more clearly, and it will also help you understand and evaluate your own progress. So Deepak, nice to have you. Why don't you take the conversation ahead?
Yeah, thank you, Deepak. Okay, hello everyone. Good evening. My name is Deepak Chaudhary, as Deepak Singh also mentioned. I am working as a blockchain developer here in IBC Media. I have more than 1 year of experience in Rust and Substrate. I have worked on various several customized palettes and worked on a governance. Okay, let's do it. Deepak, are you sharing the screen?
Yeah, let me just give me 1 second.
Okay. Let's discuss the roadmap to become a blockchain developer. First one, you should have some basic knowledge, whether it is in Python or Java or any other language. And when I say programming knowledge, I do not mean to know the syntax of the language. I mean to say is that you should have in the position to build a logic based on a given problem statement. Syntax is not that much important. The important is your approach to solve the problem. But let's assume you haven't any programming knowledge. So don't worry, we'll do all the things as we go ahead in the upcoming CEP sessions. Now, second, also you should know the basics of blockchain, what is decentralization, all the basic things related to the blockchain. For the basic things, we have pretty much covered in today's session and also yesterday's session. So if you don't know about the basic, you can watch our yesterday session. You will get very deep knowledge about the blockchain and its ecosystem. Next slide. Yeah, thank you. So what are the important blockchains that we have nowadays? First, we can say a Polkadot. What is Polkadot? Polkadot is a blockchain platform and cryptocurrency. It is designed to allow to exchange messages and perform transactions with each other without a trusted third party. The chain name of Polkadot is a relay chain. You can call it a relay chain. In that, we can connect many chains with it and communicate with each other. The custom chain we build is known as a parachain. I'll show you how a relay chain looks like in next slide. Back. Okay, yeah. Let's talk about the Ethereum. It is a decentralized open source blockchain with smart contract functionalities. Ether is the native cryptocurrency of the platform. Among cryptocurrencies, Ether is the second only to the Bitcoin in market capitalization. Transactions are sent and received by user-created Ethereum account. A sender must sign the transaction and spend Ether as a cost of transaction fees on the network. Praveen sir, do you want to add more on this?
So primarily we talked about Ethereum being the first platform which brought programmability. We have talked about that yesterday also, and today also we have talked about it. And if you look at Ethereum project right now, Ethereum project is one of the most thriving ecosystems in which applications are being built in all possible domains, be it finance, be it NFT, be it metaverse, be it sports, games, insurance, you name it. Public, the public, real public use cases, right? For example, you could think of building, getting the real estate, applications, real estate ownership into blockchain. So I think, and Ethereum, if you really see, it really has been having some issues in the past with respect to its scalability challenges. Like Avinash was showing earlier, that it could just do 10 to 12 transactions per second, which if you compare with the Web2, Visa, MasterCard, and other, applications, I mean, it's pretty negligible. But there are a lot of things are happening. One way is Ethereum moving from proof of work to proof of stake model right now, in which right now they have done the transition last month, I believe. And then they are also doing something called sharding, in which transactions are replicated across various chains. And then there is one main chain, which is called beacon chain, where all these transactions are aggregated. So multiplying the number of transactions you can do. So there are a lot of things which are happening in Ethereum space, which is pretty exciting. Also, you must take note of, like Avinash was talking about, Ethereum being an L1 chain. L1 chain is the main core blockchain, which has its own security layer, which has its own transaction settlement layer. That is very important for you to understand. To give the scalability Ethereum needs, there are a lot many L2 solutions have come, such as Arbitrum. Then you have got optimistic rollups. ZK Sync is another protocol. A lot of technological innovations are happening in those spaces. Polygon is another scaling solutions for Ethereum. So a lot many things are happening in Ethereum space right now, and it still continues to be an exciting space. But when we talk about Polkadot is, in fact, Polkadot was founded by, one of the co-founders and CTO of Ethereum, whose name is Gavin Wood. And he understood the different challenges Ethereum was facing. He also understood the limitations Ethereum was facing. And then that's where he came up with Polkadot, which is basically is called a layer 0 solution, which is one layer below Ethereum, which is called layer 1. And what Polkadot does, Polkadot gives you an ability to connect different blockchains. Now, one thing that we also should appreciate, that as and when we are talking about different layer 1 blockchains, Avinash talked about Avalanche, where Nitro.network is, hosted. Then you have got Solana, then you have got Cardano. There are maybe around 40 plus 50 plus different chains are there. But then the problem is that all these chains work in their own fashion. And the whole blockchain world, the business ecosystem has become fragmented, where one blockchain cannot talk to other blockchain in a very simple way. There are chains available, there are bridges available, but those bridges are again different set of problems, and we'll talk about some of these important topics in our module 2 sessions. But what I'm trying to say that interoperability across different chains is a big problem that blockchain is facing, and that big problem is being solved by Polkadot today. Polkadot is giving an ability for different chains to talk to each other via the relay chain that Deepak talked about. Relay chain is the central solution, the engine which enables all these different blockchains which are hosted like parachains in Polkadot ecosystem, and all these Polkadot parachains can talk to each other. Now, this may look like a simple solution, but imagine you are being able to develop so many business solutions which were not possible when these blockchains were not able to talk to each other. Now, this is something which is, in my opinion, is a path-breaking solution that Polkadot has come up with. Deepak Chaudhary?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Next slide. Yeah. First, we should know what we are going to do in the CEP2. We are going to learn how to build our chain on Polkadot. For that, we'll understand the substrate framework in coming sessions. And what is substrate? Substrate is a framework to build our customized chain in just 30 minutes. And we can deploy this chain to the Polkadot. In substrate, Rust language will be used. So if you understand Rust language, that's well and good. And if you don't worry, we learn all the concepts of Rust throughout this CEP2. Okay, let me share my screen and share some resources.
Deepak Singh, you are looking nice in your new avatar, by the way.
Thank you, sir. I thought let's give it a try.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the UI of our Polkadot. First, if we are developing our local chain, then we need to connect our path here. Like it is currently 9984. We can just put it 88. If we are running our local chain, then it connected to that chain. And if we complete our development into the local chain, then we tested this chain onto the Kusama. These chains are in testing phase. After testing the chain, we get the slot on the Polkadot. Now these are the chains which we are calling a parachains. These chains can communicate with each other. These chains can transfer any type of data, can transfer with each other. And there are 100 slots available in the Polkadot, in which 30 slots are already occupied. Like these chain, if we count, it's around 30. So 70 slots is still empty. Let's see the functionality. If we want to see the functionality of a chain, we can see it by going to the developer extrinsics, and we can see how many pallets are using this chain, and like balances is used to transfer the balance to one account to another account.
Deepak, can you also share the link in the chat here? So if students want to just go and check right away, they can.
Yeah.
So guys, while Deepak Chaudhary does that, let me give you a little more context of what Deepak is talking about here. See, these parachains are basically, chains or business functions who is trying to do something unique. Now, you could come up with a chain, a para chain in Polkadot ecosystem, which focuses on NFT, for example. Or you can come up with a chain, para chain in Polkadot ecosystem, which focuses on identification solution. Now you could be a DeFi solution, or you could, so you could be very specific in what you want to offer, and you are considered as L1 chain in a Polkadot ecosystem. Now, what happens here that like we have got different test chains in Ethereum, we have got Coven network, we have got several other networks there, Gorilla network, all these are test chains in which you develop and build your applications. Similar to that, Polkadot has got something called Kusama network. Now this Kusama network is a test environment, which by the way uses real dot tokens, real money, but much less amount than what you will need when you get deployed in the production there, right? Now, one more thing before I give it back to Deepak Chaudhary, that what Substrate framework has done, and this is just for information, I mean, you will get to know more about this later. What Substrate framework has done, that if you look at blockchain has got several fundamental blocks, building blocks. Now, one fundamental building block could be, how do you arrive at a consensus? What do you mean by consensus? Which block, like Avinash was explaining, which block next is going to be the block in the blockchain that is arrived at by a consensus mechanism within all the validators or all the important people in the blockchain, right? Now, there could be different ways in which you could arrive at the next block. If you remember, I was explaining yesterday, or if you can go and watch the video on IBC Media's YouTube channel, that Bitcoin does it by proof of work model, where everybody is asked to solve a puzzle, okay, and whoever does first, he gets to select the next block. In proof of stake model, which Ethereum is now working on, and so many other chains are working on, so there people put some money and the validator is chosen at random, right? Now, there could be various variations in this process. But what Substrate does, that they, Deepak Chaudhary used a term called palettes, right? Now, these palettes are standard functions which are built by Polkadot and given to you as a programmer, as an application builder. That this is how this is the recommended way, or the basic way in which you can go and do consensus, right? Now, if you are creating another chain, another parachain, what you need to do, if you think that, no, I am okay with the way Substrate is built, then you can just go and use that. But if you think, no, you want a different way of choosing consensus, then you can take that palette, you can customize wherever you want to make changes and use that in your own parachain. Now, all those things will become clearer and clearer as we move along, but I wanted to give you a very basic understanding of what it is all, then you will be appreciating Deepak Chaudhary more. Yeah, Deepak, continue.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So, like we are seeing what are the functionalities a chain can have. Also, if we want to see the storage, the variables which the chain is using, we can see it by going to the chain state and go to the storage. And these are the palettes which Praveen sir already said. And there are the accounts, how many accounts are there, how many locking amount, all are there. We can see it by going to the chain state. Okay. Now next, the resource you would need. This is the official website of Rust. You can install it. I'll make an install when CEP module 2 will start. For learning, you can go ahead and read the book. You can read it from here. And there is a playground where you can practice the Rust. And here there is also a checkout Rust by example. First, read the book and then go to the checkout by example. You will get more depth knowledge of Rust. Okay, I'll paste this in the chat. Now, another resource. You can get playlist. Yeah, here there is a playlist which is explaining the Rust Lang book. You can go ahead and check this out. I'll paste this link also. Now for substrate. This is the official website for substrate. You can go into the developer section. You can go to the Rust doc directly from here. And the playground is there. You can develop your smart contract. There is a workshop for it. You can go ahead and develop your very simple smart contract through this document. Okay, for starting, we have, if you don't know the basics, you can also go ahead and check this out. So why substrate, architecture, all are here. Like Praveen sir said, the consensus, all the material, what you want to know about the consensus, all are here. You can go and read this. Block authorization, how block will be authorized, how block will be finalized, all are here. You can build your local blockchain. You can go ahead and check this. This is a very simple thing. You can clone the repository and build it, and you can start your chain in just 15 to 20 minutes. If you more specifically know about the Rust for substrate, you can go ahead and check this. Also, there is a YouTube channel of Polka. You can go ahead and see the technical. Polka for beginner. And we have also our YouTube channel. Here you can find all the videos of CEP1. You can check this out also. Also, there is a book. For dummies. I highly recommend you to read this book. It will clear your basic and advance all the concepts of blockchain related. So this is it from my side.
All right, Deepak. Thank you once again. And guys, so our next session will be on 27th, and all the links that Deepak has shared, we will be sharing on Discord as well. And in the CEP channel, make sure that you go and check it out. And by the time we have our next session, you get prepared. I mean, obviously, it's going to be very challenging to read all of it, but try to prioritize uh, whichever document or the YouTube video, or the, let's say you can choose the Rust for Substrate, or you can just go and start with Blockchain for Dummies and then move to Substrate, or start with Rust, and vice versa. Whichever could be your thing, you can start with that and then maybe move on to our next session, which will be the technical session. But make sure that you put in some effort and spend some time in the links that have been shared here, and do check it out on Discord also, in case anybody misses these links. We'll be sharing it on Discord as well. So make sure you spend some time by identifying and prioritizing the information that is relevant for you and the path that you want to take for learning, not just Rust Substrate, but also to become a blockchain developer. You will need to understand certain extremely important elements, especially when we are going to build on Polkadot. Praveen sir, anything else you would like to add before we come to the final segment of this conversation?
No, I think I believe that whatever points, whatever topics we have covered today, Avinash has done a very deep dive into. He has, in fact, he has shown you the whole world in a glimpse. That definitely should have given you a very good confidence level in terms of what we can do, how we can do, and these things are. It must have given you that confidence that it is not rocket science. It can be built. You have to be consistent, and we at IBC Media will help you being consistent. The only one thing that I always talked about, that you need to reciprocate. You need to be a part of these sessions, and please do whatever we recommend you to do. And one question that I am looking at, Bhuvan is asking, what should be the first project in Rust? I think, see, get some hold on the programming language. Okay, go through some of these books and be a part of the sessions that we are going to be doing in module 2. You will definitely get there. Okay. This is pretty, structured, like, we always talk about, and you have to follow the structure, and you have to be consistent. If you do these two things, I don't see there is any problem. So these are the things from my side, Deepak.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Avinash sir, anything else you would like to add before we conclude this conversation?
No, I think we are all sorted. We have too many things to do. It is a journey. It is a learning experience. I would say, again, whatever background you are, all of this can be done as long as we follow the process and we follow a very strong discipline. Whether you join the sessions, whether you build demo application, be active on Discord, whatever the approach is, but we need to make sure that there is very strong discipline around learning. That's it.
So Deepak, can I ask a question here? How many
Yes, sir.
people, how many people here, they have already joined our Discord server?
Guys, can
Yeah.
you respond saying yes in the chat box? or in the Q&A if you have joined in the Discord server. So we did find some traction since the time we started our CEP. I mean, we have been getting traction consistently, but we did see certain element of push in the recent days, and yeah, we are getting a lot of answers in the chat box that many have already joined. So yeah, I think
Excellent. People who have not joined, please do join there, because I think, like Deepak mentioned, it is a place which is pretty active. And like we always say that if you really want to get into something, get into this with wholeheartedly. Don't be partial. Don't be in and out kind of situation. Please, believe in yourself. Believe in IBC Media. Have the trust in us, and we will ensure that you are there where you should be, and that's something which IBC Media commits to you. But then you have to do as Deepak Singh suggested. Yep.
Yeah, so guys, I mean, I don't really see a lot of educational platforms that are giving you this opportunity without having to work hard for it. I mean, it's extremely simple for you. You can just like, for example, if you're stuck while you're reading something about blockchain or Rust or Substrate for that matter, you can go and simply Google, and if you Google and you don't come up with an answer, then you can just come and drop your question in Discord also. It can work the other way around as well. Like, you can, if you have a question, you can just directly drop in a query in our Discord server. But then we suggest first that you go and Google once, and if you are not able to come up with an answer, then obviously that was more suggestive. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that we are here to help you out, and not just the panels that are here, but we have dozens of other people also, from our partners to sponsors. All of them are there on Discord, and I don't think that you will get a better opportunity than this. I mean, you just need to ask your questions, you just need to raise a query, and we will handle it for you. So it's extremely simple for you. All you need to do is put in the hard work, put in some effort, and we will make it happen. If you are interested, if you are willing to put in your dedicate your time, dedicate your mind and focus to this, then definitely we will make it happen. Like Praveen sir, Abhishek sir, Avinash sir, and all of us have reiterated it multiple times. All right, so I'll just check once more if we have any other questions. Okay, Devishri is saying, I think I joined in Discord, but I don't know what I don't know that absolutely I joined or not. So I find that I joined. Okay, so if you have joined the Discord server, it's I mean, you'll in your Discord account, you'll just on the left side you will see the IBC Media logo. If you don't see it, then you just go and use the invite link once again and just click it, and you'll be able to join it. So once you start seeing it on the left corner of your index in your Discord account, that means you've already joined the account. All right, guys, I think that's about it.
Deepak, there is one other question. Please look at the chat.
Yeah, sir, what are the upcoming schedules? So we will be sharing the next, the calendar date is 27th, and you will get a message in the CEP section of the channel where we will talk about what we'll be covering over there. So yeah, make sure you keep a tab on what's happening on Discord. Okay, sir, thank you. Yeah, absolutely, Devishri, thank you. Yeah, so everything that is going to come ahead, you will get to know, like we will be updating you all in the CEP channel of our Discord server. So make sure you stay tuned to that. And yeah, if there are any other queries or any other questions, just feel free to drop your questions on Discord server, and we'll be happy to answer them for you. All right, guys, it was really nice. I mean, the time just flies by when we start this session, and it's so much fun that I didn't even realize that we are past 9. It's close to 9:10 now, and the journey is quite smooth. And I hope that you guys are making the maximum use out of it, because everyone here had stopped some or the other important stuff that they might be doing just to make sure that they come here and impart the knowledge and the context and the the agenda setting for you so that you can perform better and learn better in the upcoming sessions of the technical phase of which is the module 2 of IBC CEP. So I really appreciate all of the panels today, especially Avinash sir for joining in from Nitro Network. It was great to have you, sir. Praveen sir, obviously, thank you for taking out the time, and Deepak Chaudhary, once again, thank you for taking out the time and coming to us with an amazing discussion. All right, guys, thank you so much. Have a nice
Thank
night.
you.
We'll see you soon on 27th. And the agenda for 27th you'll be getting to know soon on the CEP section of our Discord server. All right, guys, take it easy. Make sure that you work hard, utilize the time that you have between now and 27 to do some background setting for yourselves with the links that have been shared by Deepak. We'll make sure that those links are also shared in the Discord server, and so that you can just go back and visit them and learn before you do some homework before you come on to the next session. Thank you, guys. That's it. Good night.
Good night, guys. Work hard and party hard.
Absolutely.